Coming up on the 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook.
Woo, that's the right kind.
He's shaking. I was like, that was cool right there.
The records will fall.
You know, he's just pulling around. I mean, he looked like Huck Finn out there.
Whoever wins today, they earned it.
That was easy.
The 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook is presented by Triton Boats and Mercury Marine.
I've always felt like if I died before I won the Classic, man, that I haven't accomplished, the biggest goal in my life.
It's the only fishing tournament that anyone ever remembers who won. Even after all the tournaments are done in a Bassmaster season and all the other tournaments in the United States, everybody will remember who wins the Classic.
From Kalamazoo, Michigan, Kevin Van Dam!
I would say the biggest thing that separates the Classic from the other tournaments is the prestige, the honor of being there. You didn't buy your way in, you didn't pay an entry fee to get there. It was by invite. You qualified, you earned your way there.
You work so hard in such a competitive field just to get there, and the hoopla and the hype, the energy, I mean, when you get there, before the event even starts, you can feel it.
What legends are made of. It's the lore, it's everything about bass fishing. It always has and it always will be. Nothing can even touch it.
In 2006, for the first time in the event's 36-year history, the Bassmaster Classic was held in February, breaking the longtime tradition of summertime classics.
I liked it. It's like the Daytona 500 kicks off NASCAR. It's the biggest race of the year. We had our biggest tournament first of the year.
Having the Classic in February was a big, big change for us. It's always been a summertime classic for as long as I can remember as a kid reading about it. So to put it in February really put a new spin on things in a lot of ways. But for sure, we knew that the fishing was going to be different.
My first reaction, when I found out the Classic was in February, it was kind of, everybody's scared of change.
It's going to be hit or miss. February, anywhere you go, it could be super cold or it can be warm throughout the South. So we can deal with some world-class fishing, or we might be fishing in snow in a Classic.
February and March is big bass time of year. It's when big bass stay near each other. And whenever big bass stay near each other, you've got the potential for a blowout stringer.
Since the event held big bass potential, it needed a fishery with a big bass reputation. Ask the competitors and they'll tell you that Florida's Lake Toho has no problem with potential. Just don't ask them to pronounce its full name.
Toho is short for a lot of things. If you're from New Jersey, you don't even try pronouncing the correct name.
Like, I can't pronounce it.
Oh gosh, you're gonna bust me.
That will never happen.
No, don't make me do that.
Toho Kapliga?
Topakalaya. Lake Tohopalikia.
Lake Tohopakalaja. I hope that's right.
The correct pronunciation of Tohopakalaga isn't the only thing the competitors find puzzling about the fishery.
The thing that makes Toho so confusing in mass is it's all flat grass. There's not a lot of change. There's not a lot of contour drops where a ledge may drop 15, 18 foot where you can read it and the fish are to be here.
It's pretty much like any lake in Florida. They're all bowl lakes. Deep part of a Florida lake might be 10 feet deep. It's just a shallow grass lake.
You're fishing miles and miles and miles of flat grass, different types of grass.
You have the matted grass, lily pads, tules.
Hydrilla, you got the buggy whips, you've got little needle grass.
Milfoil, gator grass, gator vines growing on the water, so you get all these different vegetations.
You have to know how to fish grass. You need to flip, you need to throw topwater, spinnerbait, or a rattle trap, or anything like that. You really have to be versatile going to a lake like that.
There's so much vegetation, there's so much area to cover, it's hard to narrow it down in a short period of time.
There's 4 lakes there that we could fish. It was Toho, Kissimmee, Cypress, and Hatchina, plus the river down below.
In the past, it's always been about Toho. Now we had, instead of 1 good lake, we had 4 lakes.
Every lake fishes a little bit different there. They all have their little special deals you have to do in order to capitalize. In the Classic, without a doubt, Kissimmee was the lake that proved to be the most beneficial to anglers.
Still to come on the 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook.
29 pounds, 1 ounce, and Preston Clark.
Really, I still can't comprehend that my name is actually in the record book.
He's shaking. I was like, that was cool right there.
The 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook is presented by Triton Boats and Mercury Marine. As the 2006 Bassmaster Classic got underway, the expectations of a big fish event were high. But as the competitors set off on day one, they knew that weather conditions, not expectations, would tell the story.
You know, the conditions on day one, we had 2 or 3 days of really, really warm weather, and it was a perfect scenario for fishing.
It was the right time of the year, the water temperature was at the right level, and you know, that's the one time of year that those big giant fish are accessible in Florida.
Woo! That's the right kind.
I was blown away. I mean, I come into the ramp and we're all loading boats up, and I look around, I was like, hey, you got them? Oh, I got about 25 pounds. I'm like, you got them? Oh, 33 pounds, 31 pounds. I was like, oh, God, this is going to be ugly.
I just remember, you know, for me is going back and watching the show and highlights there at the Classic, the Godfather, Rick Clunn.
Oh, that's a nice fish.
He's shaking. I was like, that was cool right there.
You know, a lot of people have commented about actually visually shaking when I caught the 10-pounder. You know, everybody thinks I'm in total control of, you know, part of the game, which I know is not true. And also the fact that I don't show emotion outwardly. So I'm not surprised that they think that.
Woo. Ain't no drug better than that, buddy.
Clunn's huge fish easily eclipsed the record for the largest bass in a Classic, 8 pounds and 9 ounces caught by Ricky Green in 1976, a fact that did not go unnoticed by Clunn.
It immediately hit me, even though I hadn't thought about it up to then, that I'd always had the second largest bass ever caught in the Bassmaster Classic. And I caught it the same day Ricky Green caught the 8-pounder. And so I said, now I got the biggest bass caught. Well, as we all know, that didn't turn out to be the case.
Records will fall. 29 pounds, 1 ounce, and Preston Clark shatters the record books.
Really, I still can't comprehend that my name is actually in the record book for having the largest fish. I've caught a lot of big fish in my life. I was at the right place at the right time, and it just happened during the Classic when I caught that one.
I was in the weighing lines thinking, Jesus, this guy's caught 11-pounder in the Classic. I mean, that really was strong.
Well, I really thought he was probably going to win the tournament. You know, starting the tournament out with those type of fish and being a hometown favorite on top of that, you think he's probably got the fish to back it up both days.
Preston Clark was one of 2 competitors with local knowledge of the fishery. Along with Terry Scroggins, the hometown favorites had both the extra pressure and potential that came with a history on Lake Toho.
If you're a local favorite and knowing the waters, it's a huge advantage. It's more so in Florida than anywhere else in the country.
This time we had 2 Florida guys, both projected to, you know, basically run away with the tournament.
Everybody said Scroggins was a local favorite. Nobody talked about me. I liked it that way too.
Well, you know, when I found out the Classic was going to be on the Kissimmee chain, I was just thrilled to death. I couldn't wait for it to happen. I was one of the favorites to win the thing, and I probably knew more about that chain of lakes than anybody at the tournament.
Terry was a little more outspoken than Preston was. Terry's the kind of person that'll tell you, I'm going to win this tournament.
While Scroggins may have had more hype, it was Preston Clark who made more noise on day one, thanks in part to a quiet approach on the water.
Watching the video footage of him push-pulling along, and even though it wasn't shallow water like a lot of times where you push-pull because you're stirring everything up with the trolling motor, he really didn't have that situation. The water was deep enough, and I'm like, brother's gone a little overboard. Obviously, he knew something I didn't, and a lot of other guys didn't.
If you've ever been in the water snorkeling or swimming and somebody's close to you and you're underwater and they hit a trolling motor, you can hear it from 50 yards away. Those fish know what that is, and if they're kind of spooky and they're on their beds and they hear that trolling motor going through the grass, they're going to ease off 4 or 5 feet and wait till you're past, and then they'll come back.
I would say these guys are pretty geeked up when the bell rings to start the Bassmaster Classic and probably moving a little faster than they should in certain areas. You know, he's just pulling around. I mean, he looked like Huck Finn out there.
Everybody now is sight fishing with a push pole. He's made it cool.
I don't think there was another push pole in the tournament. Then the next tournament, there was 105 of them out there, but 104 was in the tournament.
It became a fad. I went to Amistad to cover the Amistad tournament, and I think the start boat had its own push pole, you know. Suddenly trolling motors weren't cool anymore, and you had to have this pole to go around.
Still to come on the 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook.
That was a true life Happy Gilmore of bass fishing moment.
If you had one person in that tournament, if you were leading and you didn't want him to make a huge comeback and be right there in the middle of it, he was it. He was it.
It was a history-making event. Records are meant to be broken, and there's some records out there that I want to break and I want to see broken. It was cool to be at that event and seeing these monster fish getting caught and records being broken.
The 2006 Bassmaster Classic had a historic first day of fishing on Florida's Lake Toho, but the broken records didn't get as much press as one broken light pole.
I really felt sad because I felt like Ike's blow-up got more press than Preston Clark's record, and that's wrong in the sport. Just straight up, it should have never happened.
You know, looking back on it, I mean, obviously, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind when it's brought up is regret. It was just a real unfortunate, you know, the first day, first thing in the morning, you know, you catch a couple good fish, you start getting some momentum going, you've got a limit, and you look back and something devastating happens. Oh no. You got to imagine, here's your dreams being shattered. You've got this 5 fish limit, it's still early, and open up that live well, and there they go. They're all belly up, floating dead. Oh, no! No! I'm an angler, I don't want to kill these fish. This is devastating. This never happened before in a classic. Never. And I handled it the wrong way.
Did that out of frustration and anger. I think a lot of people would have done that. That light pole just happened to have an American flag on it, so it made him look like some kind of a monster that he is not.
Dude, that came down to 2 things. Number one, and I said it on the air when it happened. That was a true life Happy Gilmore of bass fishing moment. And number 2, learn how to run your live wells. You're in a pretty big tourney. If I'm wrong, sorry for saying it, I don't think I am.
I'm looking back on it, I'm not placing blame on anybody. If there's blame to be placed on anybody, it's myself.
As far as getting his catch disqualified, you know, I don't know, man, on that deal. You know, that's Tripp's call.
Well, I was asked to come to the truck to review the film, and it was first to look at whether or not if he caught a dead fish. Some people would say, yeah, the fish is obviously dead, but none of us were there. We can't say the fish was dead. And then as I watched the film and all that happened after that, as a tournament official and upholding the integrity of the sport, I couldn't let that go.
Did he deserve to get DQ'd once the American flag was on it? Absolutely. Did ESPN sensationalize this thing? Yeah. I've seen it enough on TV, I'm sick of it.
You know, the media seems to sensationalize nowadays on the negative. I didn't really feel it probably even should have aired.
I hate that happened. I probably don't hate it as bad as he does.
Every tournament, when he's around and he's doing well, they got to replay that crap. And I'm sick of that. He doesn't deserve that. Ike Nelly's done a ton for our sport.
You know, day 2, the wind blowing more, I knew it would be the last thing in the world that the guys at sight fishing wanted to see.
The sight fishing was, the conditions were getting worse, the fish were pulling off the beds. I knew that it wasn't going to hold up.
It just got a lot tougher that day, regardless when people were trying to catch pre-spawn, post-spawn fish or spawning fish. Fish really didn't bite that well today. I think Terry is about the only guy that caught them very well.
Terry went from being embarrassed on day 1 that he fished his way right back into the contention of this thing. That's the stringer that stood out the best.
Terry, I think, after that first day was over, he analyzed what happened in his day. He looked at the conditions, looked at what other anglers did, and he revamped the strategy.
Well, these guys, I know they didn't catch them flipping, because if the flipping bite was on, I would have caught them. So I just played it through my mind mentally. How did they catch these fish? And the pads really came to mind. That's how they had to catch them. So as I made my lap around the lake the second day, I came to a pad field there wasn't anybody in.
On a day when most of the competitors struggled to catch fish, Terry Scroggins brought in the biggest bag of the day.
28 pounds and 6 ounces, and Terry Scroggins moves back in the game. Second place right now with 39.4 on the scales.
That put fear in a lot of people, like, here he comes.
Yeah, I was pretty concerned with after the weight that Terry caught on the second day. Coming with a big stringer like that the second day when I knew my pattern was starting to deteriorate, and it didn't help that I knew where Terry was. And that was one of the places I went the first day after I'd caught some and called a couple fish out. I went back, didn't think that much of it, really didn't know the area had the potential that it did to produce those kind of fish, and Terry went in there and caught them.
If you had one person in that tournament, if you were leading and you didn't want him to make a huge comeback and be right there in the middle of it, he was it. He was it.
Still to come on the 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook.
And we knew the weather was going to be really tough.
Our main concern is safety of the competitors and spectators in the area.
Then it became a matter of survival. That's when you realized, boy, whoever's kind of been leading or close to the lead, it's going to be just down to them.
Whoever wins today, they earned it.
The 2006 Bassmaster Classic Yearbook is presented by Triton Boats and Mercury Marine.
Going into day 3, I'm betting on Terry Scroggins. He's a great Florida fisherman. The weather's changing. Actually, I thought it was really all just falling into his hands.
All eyes were focused on local favorite Terry Scroggins as the final day of the Bassmaster Classic began. But every competitor, including Virginia's Rick Morris and the Day 2 leader Luke Clausen, had their sights set on victory.
Luke was still, you had to have your scope on him, obviously. He's won $500,000 before. Unlike anybody in this field in one event.
I really would have put my money on Rick Morris, simply because I knew what he was doing. And we knew the weather was going to be really tough.
The weather conditions certainly changed on the final day.
I don't know where the heck he's going to go. He tried going to the backside of this island here and kind of regroup.
Our main concern is safety of the competitors and spectators in the area. We had a whole team of meteorologists on site, and I'll never forget, they called me and they said, we've got a squall line coming through with 35 to 40 mile per hour winds.
In all the years that I've fished, I have never seen as fast a weather change as what I saw that day. I was running down the lake and I could see this line coming towards me of clouds, and the wind switched 180 degrees and the temperature dropped 30 degrees, and it went from blowing 20 out of the south to 50 out of the opposite direction, just like that.
It really doesn't bother the fish near as bad as it bothers the fishermen, and it just made trying to fish almost impossible. The wind was blowing so hard you could hardly cast, you couldn't maintain boat position.
Then it became a matter of survival. That's when you realized, boy, whoever's kind of been leading or close to the lead, it's going to be just down to them.
Whoever wins today, they earned it.
That morning at Blastoff, I really thought I was going to win the Classic, because I thought I could go back to my area and catch 25 pounds again.
The weather kept him from winning that tournament. Had that weather been calm and that storm not came through, he would have won that tournament.
And it just destroyed everything down there.
He's moving on. I'm going to try and chase him because he said he is dedicated to Toho. I said, what are you going to do about the wind? It seems like it's changing. He said, what wind?
I know some of the winds were 50 miles plus. To me, that was okay, because I'm in a canal. All I had to do was put the wind at my back and just blow down the bank, make short little pitches. It was easy fishing for me.
That was easy.
And I knew them guys on the lake were wrecked, so I'm thinking, all right, now I got a chance to win this tournament.
Storm was coming. Things weren't looking good at all. I knew I had a little bit of time before that storm really hit to run back that area that I had caught them the first 2 days of the event, and immediately caught a fish.
I don't know what to do with that one patch of pads. It's the only place I get a bite. I've caught 3 off of it this morning.
And that was kind of a turning point for me. If I could just catch a small limit to go with it, at least I have a chance. But you could see this front coming in too. And I knew the amount of time I had to fish that place was going to be short-lived.
As the fishing came to an end and the Bassmaster Classic's final weigh-in began, the question became, which angler managed to best weather the storm? Soon became evident that Luke Clausen's lead seemed safe. The Classic title was within reach.
As we were behind the stage getting ready to go out, he still hadn't realized that he had won the Classic. There was 5 of us back there. We all knew he had won. We're saying, Luke, you've won the Classic. He's biting his nails. No, and then all of a sudden it dawned on him that I'm going to win this Classic.
Luke Clausen at 27 years of age, poised to earn $500,000. The ink is not dry. 44 pounds and 5 ounces on the scale so far this week. Ladies and gentlemen, he needs 6 pounds and 12 ounces. 11 pounds, 13 ounces.
It really was not overly exciting for me to be in the production of the whole weigh-in deal. It was just a relief to have won.
Luke Clausen takes the title of Classic champion. Wow. Hook him up. Luke Clausen taking the title here on Lake Toho.
Like the pressure was let off at that point because I've been leading. I wanted to win so bad. But actually figuring out that you'd won, you know, I kind of didn't even care at that point.
You know, I'm thinking, does he realize what he just did when I'm watching this? And I think the general public was thinking that.
Luke Clausen, in my prediction, will be that Classic winner that falls off the face of the map quicker and further than any other Classic winner we've ever had. He wanted to come back and defend his Classic title. Bass said you have to fish the Elite Series. He didn't want to.
I think everybody wanted to see Luke come out and fish. You know, when you win the Bassmaster Classic, you know, you definitely want to see that person out on the tour. You want to compete against them. You know, you want to be elbow to elbow with the Classic champ.
You know, he's a young kid, man. He looked at it in a different way. I think he'll probably regret it. You know, I think he probably does a little bit right now.
No, I don't regret not being able to defend my title. I think I did the best thing for myself and my career and my bank account.
I don't even think Luke cares, to be honest with you. I mean, he's done so much in the last, 2 to 3 years that I think a lot of he's just overwhelmed by it all. You know, winning the FLW championship, then winning the Bassmasters Classic a year and a half after that. You know, guys use their whole career to try and accomplish those goals, and he's done it already in his mid-20s.
You know, it's hard for me to believe. It's when I started bass fishing 3 years ago. I was living in California after I graduated from college, and all I wanted to do was go fish the big-time bass tournaments back east. And I packed my stuff and came back and started fishing back here. Never would have expected that I'd win that much money in the first few years I was out here. You know, I couldn't really ask for much more.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. To learn more about the Bassmaster Classic, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.